Energycast is on the road in Washington, D.C. this month. Environmental management leaders from across the country are here. We'll be talking with many of them and bringing you full coverage of the National Cleanup Workshop. Energycast starts now. 3, 2, live.
What we are doing, we are cleaning up legacy sites, sites that are dirty in communities all over the United States.
So as the representative of the communities, we were just really excited to be able to participate in a project like that.
There's opportunities over there that they may not think that cleaning up nuclear waste is an opportunity. Don't rule that out as a business to get into, because there's great opportunity there.
We're getting the job done, we're moving into that next phase, and I find it very energizing.
Welcome to Washington, D.C. We are taking you through the National Cleanup Workshop with us. Just ahead, we're going to take a look at the future of the nuclear cleanup industry, according to the people at the top. But first, a word from one of the leaders who helped make this event possible, now in its 8th year.
This is where business is happening. This is where the policy is being discussed. And you know, the fact that we get together with the congressional leaders, the Department of Energy leaders, this is really their opportunity to hear from them directly.
There are decades of cleanup work left to be done all across our country. In fact, we just finished up a session called Progress and Priorities. EM operates the largest cleanup program in the world. The mission involved work at 107 sites across the country. Now, for context, that area is the equivalent of Rhode Island and Delaware combined. 92 sites have already been completed. This map here shows the remaining 15. With locations from California to South Carolina, there's a lot of discussion happening here about how best to complete the work at those remaining sites. Let's take a look at what's ahead.
We're definitely focused on dealing with the legacy of the past, but we've got a clear eye to the future.
Jeff Avery knows opportunity when he sees it.
I've reinvented myself 3 or 4 times throughout my career.
Good morning, everyone.
He now serves as DOE's Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for EM.
One of the things that I'm proud that I've been able to focus on throughout my career is developing alignment and consensus with parties across the country and across the world. So I feel like I've been able to bring that experience to the environmental management program, where it's just so critically important.
And with almost 3 decades of nuclear experience,
I've loved every minute of it.
he knows exactly where to lead the team next.
We've got some exciting things happening.
Exciting things, he says, like the reindustrialization at the East Tennessee Technology Park, opening up land in Oak Ridge, D&D work in Portsmouth, leading to nuclear and clean energy opportunities.
We've got challenges too, clearly, but I'm very, very pleased at how we're facing those challenges.
Challenges like treating tank waste at the Savannah River site and melter heat up in Hanford, though tricky, is proving successful, bringing the team one step closer to ridding the area of radioactive waste.
Getting out to see the work, to meet with the workers, just to see the incredible work that's being done around the country, and to meet with our partners and stakeholders is extremely rewarding.
He's on track to complete his own goal of visiting all 15 sites within his first year on the job.
It's a humbling thing to be a part of, and it's an extremely important thing to be a part of for the country.
Of all the goals he sees ahead for the industry,
if you want to make a difference, if you want to have an outsized impact on the world and the nation, federal service might be for you.
it's opportunities for others that light him up most. We are just minutes away now from hearing from the United States Energy Deputy Secretary. We are covering the National Cleanup Workshop from all angles here in Washington, D.C. This year's event is being held just 2 miles from Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport in the Arlington, Virginia area. The workshop is drawing senior DOE leaders, officials from DOE sites, and industry executives. The goal is to get everyone together to brainstorm, problem solve, and plan. Here are a few pictures from last year, taking a look at some of the biggest takeaways. Site leaders, including some from Oak Ridge, highlighted the goal to put federal land back in the hands of citizens. We see a lot of that happening in East Tennessee. Of course, developing the future workforce was a big topic of conversation at last year's event, and we are certainly hearing more on that this year. In just a few minutes, we'll be finding out some of the ways these leaders are planning to draw new talent to the industry. Last year, DOE leaders highlighted support EM gets from Congress to make progress at sites across the country. We are going to get another update on funding a little bit later in this show. These are all topics our teams are continuing to discuss and build upon here this year. All right, we are hearing a few more leaders are now ready to meet with us. So while we head that way, let's take a quick look at our top leaders' journey to DOE.
What's in this glass right
You might know her from her personable videos on social media, bringing spunk to conversations about solar power, nuclear energy, and environmental cleanup.
This is water, by the way.
But before she took the top spot leading the Department of Energy, Jennifer Granholm had a long history of serving the people of the United States.
I give your full name.
I, Jennifer M. Granholm.
First, in Michigan, where she began her career as a judicial clerk for the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals. By 1990, she was a federal prosecutor in Detroit and went on to become the Attorney General. Her 2 terms as governor started in 2003.
As governor
Of this great state of Michigan.
She returned to her alma mater, University of California at Berkeley, to teach.
And interacting with students who all felt like they were here to do something more than just serve themselves was really influential in my decision-making and my career path.
2021 brought Granholm the nomination that would land her on the president's cabinet.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
She was sworn in as the 16th Secretary of Energy that February.
Congratulations, Madam Secretary. There we are.
The secretary was not able to make it to the workshop here this year. She was in Maui offering her guidance, skills, and support to help in the aftermath of those recent fires. Deputy Secretary David Turk, however, did just take the podium here at the National Cleanup Workshop. He highlighted some of the impressive work happening all across the country, from scientists in Idaho figuring out a new way to treat radioactive tank waste that had been stumping them for years, to Tennessee, where isotopes are being extracted for cancer treatment. He talked about the Clean Up to Clean Energy movement. The focus is leasing out federal land to continue clean energy projects on those sites.
It relies on the land that we've used to strengthen our energy security and national security for many years, land that we have dedicated ourselves to cleaning up and revitalizing for future generations, land that can create good-paying jobs and be part of that economic development that I'm sure the mayor is eager to take advantage of, and mayors across our country, and land that we can now use to deploy clean energy.
It'll take even more experts to make these next goals happen. He underlined the importance of recruiting the next generation of workers. We're going to talk more about that a little bit later in the show. Some early career employees are here to share their perspectives as they enter the industry. You know, getting the team together and seeing this packed house is really encouraging for the people who care so much about these missions. Nearly a third of the EM workforce will be eligible to retire over the next 10 years. Coming up in about 4 minutes, you're going to hear from a leader who is passionate about making sure the industry is full of exceptional employees for years to come. DOE, as we know it today, was founded in 1977 to address the nation's energy crisis, but its roots go back much further. Cue the Manhattan Project. That was a top secret effort during the Second World War to develop the first atomic weapon. When the war was over, these top minds kept working. Some continued building the U.S. arsenal. Many others shifted their focus to expand the boundaries of medicine, science, and energy. Today, DOE has sites and laboratories from coast to coast, working to keep the United States a world leader in research, technology, and innovation. Now, these sites are also working to keep the nation safe from threats abroad and protected from risks here at home. That's where DOE's Office of Environmental Management comes in. EM was founded in 1989 to address buildings and land impacted by decades of nuclear-related research and weapons development. That scope included 107 sites all across the country. Through continued progress, DOE only has 15 active cleanup sites left. Oak Ridge is one of them. The projects happening here focus on taking down old, contaminated buildings and cleaning up the soil and water around them. These projects are keeping the community safe, and they're also clearing space for research and national defense missions that address some of our nation's top needs for years to come. You know, federal and state regulators play a really important role in EM's cleanup missions. They're tasked with making sure these approaches are protecting the community, and they put standards and policies in place to do just that. So let's take a look now at how these organizations work together to support these missions while also protecting the needs of the community.
When it comes to EM's cleanup, it takes a team.
I like teamwork. I like being a part of a team.
And it's probably bigger than you realize. Cleanup underway at EM's 15 sites involves more than the employees performing the work.
We have an incredible roster of devoted public employees that are committed to public service, as does DOE, as does EPA, and a lot of the local governments and stuff. If you can keep the focus on trying to achieve that goal of public service and trying to truly serve others, that's a win.
Each player brings a different perspective, but they're all needed to make sure the job's done right.
We're able to come together, find those key issues that we need to work on collaboratively, find some solutions and do it in a way that provides a really big return on the investment. That's really paid a lot of dividends at multiple EM cleanup sites over the last several years.
Those deepening partnerships took center stage at this year's National Cleanup Workshop. Representatives from the EPA and states with EM sites prove they're all on the same team when it comes to regulatory challenges and key decisions.
Where the relationship, I think, has evolved is to where we can recognize our respective roles and look for common ground to advance cleanup. And so I feel like that is where we have come really between DOE, the state, and even EPA into finding ways to think creatively about issues that otherwise would bog things down. Now we're able to put those issues on the table, advance them in a mutually collaborative way, and build on that success.
They say these conversations aren't easy to have, but updating the playbook is key.
Having that engagement with DOE, EPA, and the states has been really valuable, and I think it's helping to deliver some real meaningful results in individual sites and for the complex.
Getting to the finish line and getting a win out of something with multiple players that are involved and finding a way to do it, that's fun.
Like any good team, they're driven by a winning spirit, one with implications seen across the country.
And we've got more information on our regulatory process over on our website. Once you're there, you're going to look up our public involvement plan. It's all explained right there. You can also keep an eye out for public info sections in the calendar section. Just head on over to energy.gov/OREM. Hey, we are also on social media. You can follow Headquarters News by visiting their accounts and local EM news on site-specific pages. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for Oak Ridge EM. If you've got any questions about anything you've heard so far, go ahead and reach out to us. Waste disposal was another major topic at this year's workshop. It's a subject that's relevant to EM sites nationwide and to the communities located nearby. Panelists shared perspectives from South Carolina, Ohio, and Texas as they discussed how disposal is a significant driver behind the pace of cleanup. EM uses diverse approaches based on the type of waste. Some waste goes to DOE disposal facilities in remote locations, while some is shipped to commercial facilities. There are also on-site disposal facilities in some areas, which involves significant outreach and requires input from the public as those are planned and designed. One of those panelists is committed to recruiting. There are at least 4 more decades of cleanup work left to be done, which makes for a wide open and long career for the next generation. Those science, engineering, technology, and math or STEM fields are encouraged in schools across the country. Kristen Ellis says we've got to go beyond that in getting young people to go into this field.
I think we also need to do a better job at explaining that we are part of the environmental mission. I think the next generation is very worried about the future of our planet, and I think that cleaning up nuclear activities is a part of closing the fuel cycle and facilitating future nuclear energy.
All right, so get this. She says college is too late, high school is too late. Middle school, though, seems to be the sweet spot for an introduction to a cleanup career. And you know what? The very first day of this workshop was actually focused on early career development. Our team was there as the newest employees learned the ropes and heard from department leaders. We chatted with a 2020 mechanical engineering graduate. He tells us he worked in construction and machine shops before finding his current role with contractor HII Mission Technologies. He says he has loved how committed to career growth leaders have been.
I'm very excited to hear about what environmental cleanup is and how the whole DOE tries to move forward with that and how it ties to the DOE. I have a plethora of, I guess, unanswered questions, but also have a plethora of unasked questions. So seeing how everything kind of ties together I'm excited for.
He also tells us he's looking forward to having access to so many leaders who can answer his career questions. That guidance, those relationships are exactly what managers and employers hope to foster here.
What I hope for them to get out of this is some exposure to some different ideas of what is available out there in the Department of Energy sector, and maybe help bring back some ideas to Huntington Ingalls and things that we could implement in our own business.
The workshop is often a time when newer employees are able to get a feel for opportunities that exist within the industry. Networking is, of course, a key component, and this is a great year to do that. The National Cleanup Workshop is busy. You know, this year features the largest turnout in its history. It started back in 2015. There are more than 700 people registered this year. But even out of all those people, we ran into plenty from back home. Several Oak Ridge leaders have been speakers and on panels. We're going to check in with those familiar faces. That's about 2 minutes away. You know, this is a really exciting city. So after people are done with their sessions for the day, there are plenty of options to explore our nation's capital. Here are 10 free things to do in D.C.
Stretching more than 2 miles near downtown D.C., the National Mall has numerous monuments, museums, and parks to visit and explore. One of those museums is the National Museum of American History. Here you'll find over 3 million historical objects tracing the American experience from colonial times to the present. While touring the National Mall, you'll also encounter 12 sections of the Smithsonian National Gardens. If you're looking for more greenery, you'll find the U.S. Botanical Gardens just down the street, featuring 10 additional exhibits. Want to see something out of this world? Tour the National Museum of Air and Space. Here you'll find exhibits highlighting the history of air and space travel and even rocket artifacts. How about touring the largest library on the planet? Founded in 1800, you can enjoy the beautiful architecture and maybe even check out one of its 39 million books. Speaking of historic, how about traveling to the beginning of time? With fossils, mammals, mummies, and more, the Natural History Museum will guide you through Earth's earliest beginnings. Located on the highest point in D.C., the National Cathedral offers quite the view with neo-Gothic architecture, stained glass windows, gargoyles, and 59 acres of medieval-style gardens. If you're looking to get inspired, the National Gallery of Art has over 150 pieces from notable artists across the world. Only 15 minutes from downtown, you'll find the Rock Creek Nature Center, where visitors can enjoy attractions like hiking, nature exhibits, and the only planetarium in the National Park Service. The National Zoo is free of charge and can be found in the heart of DC's Rock Creek Park. They're open 364 days a year and currently home more than 2,700 animals.
By the way, it's only about an hour-and-a-half non-stop flight from Knoxville. It's about an 8-hour drive. We saw a few of our coworkers on the flight, of course. Many Oak Ridge area leaders are at this conference. These are the familiar faces you might know who are on the schedule to speak or present here at the National Cleanup Workshop. Representative Chuck Fleischman, OREM Manager Jay Mullis, Amy Fitzgerald with City of Oak Ridge National Labs Site Office Manager Johnny Moore, UCOR President and CEO Ken Reuter, City Councilman Chuck Hope, Ashley Saunders, also with UCOR, Vice President of Navarro Research and Engineering Ryan Overton. One particular session was full of Oak Ridge leaders. It focused on the work happening at Office of Science sites like the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. On this one, all but one panelist was from Oak Ridge.
Really important to communities all over the United States.
This is an opportunity for people to share both lessons learned and opportunities or new ideas and say maybe there's a different way of tackling some issues we get bogged down in.
For 2 days, leaders from Oak Ridge heard lessons from industry experts they could apply back home. On this morning, they took the stage to share a few of their own.
Oak Ridge has, a huge history of 80 years, and so going back to Manhattan days and looking at the diversity of mission, Oak Ridge has a little piece of most everything.
At ORNL, that diversity looks like world-leading research happening next to demolition projects on old reactors.
I think that there's been a lot of examples of success in being able to get facilities cleaned up, looking at tearing down facilities that had no further use and being able to reprogram the footprint to be able to build new mission, be able to support the mission that we have.
Projects underway are clearing the way for ORNL to make its next big discovery. But other science and national security sites in the U.S. need cleanup too, and advice offered here is helping as they chart their path.
One thing that came out in the session was these operational agreements that we put in place between the programs to be able to plan for and do work. It's just a tool that we've used for, well more than a decade. And in that ends up aligning functions and duties and commitments between the parties too, so that we know that we're aligned in how we're going to either transfer a facility or we're going to be able to work the planning for deactivation or tear down a facility.
As they leave the stage, they're returning to work that's changing the landscape and learning more lessons to share next year.
The Oak Ridge site is known for innovation and revitalization. EM's projects are making sure that's all possible in the years ahead. EM is known for nuclear cleanup, but this year's workshop also highlighted its focus on creating opportunities that advance energy production. The two are more connected than you might think. Cleanup sites nationwide are making land available that can bring in new businesses and strengthen communities. DOE's Clean Up to Clean Energy initiative is the latest effort doing just that by identifying 70,000 acres for potential projects in Washington, Idaho, Nevada, South Carolina, and New Mexico. In Oak Ridge, EM's transformation of the East Tennessee Technology Park has attracted nuclear companies to locate at that site. Leaders here, including one from Oak Ridge, are talking all about those opportunities.
There's unlimited potential right now, and I think this vision that people have seen for decades of what the opportunity is when we do close that nuclear life cycle and invest in that next kind of generation of clean energy, it's happening right now. And so just stay tuned. I would say there's a lot of really cool stuff to come, and it's really neat to be a part of it.
We took a moment to talk with local leaders to hear about impact projects on the horizon in East Tennessee. They shared 3 with us. First up, finishing soil cleanup at the East Tennessee Technology Park. Crews are busy digging and expect to finish that work next year. That's a major milestone and moves EM closer to finishing all of its cleanup at that site. Second, construction on the mercury treatment facility is well underway. It allows EM to safely take down contaminated buildings and address mercury in the soil at the Y-12 National Security Complex. And finally, the environmental management disposal facility. EM broke ground on that project in August. It provides the infrastructure and waste disposal capacity needed to maintain the cleanup momentum underway at Oak Ridge National Lab and Y-12. As we round out our coverage of the National Cleanup Workshop, we are asking those who make funding choices about their decisions. Your taxpayer dollars, our lawmakers, decisions that impact so many people who work and live in East Tennessee. We're speaking with Congressman Chuck Fleischmann in just 2 minutes. Fleischmann, by the way, is the current chairman of the House Nuclear Cleanup Caucus, with government and industry leaders already in D.C. This week also provided the ideal time for that group to meet. Members work to raise awareness about nuclear cleanup and build partnerships to ensure EM has the support necessary to continue its mission. A panel of leaders from headquarters and sites where land will be reused explained the expected impact and answered questions from the audience. And digging into how funding actually works now, the Biden administration submitted its budget request to Congress for 2024 several months ago. The president's request provides Congress a point to begin deliberations on what their approved budget should be. You can see DOE received $45.8 billion to perform its missions in 2023. That total is funding all of DOE's diverse programs, ranging from national security to research, clean energy, and environmental cleanup. The president is requesting $52 billion for DOE in 2024. Next, we look more specifically at the EM program. The president's budget request for EM next year is $8.3 billion. That total funds cleanup at all of the EM sites across the country, including Oak Ridge. You can see the complete listing of how much was requested for each site. That includes $635 million for cleanup in Oak Ridge in 2024. Now, that budget directly impacts our team's ability to start and complete projects on the reservation. In Oak Ridge, funding from Congress supports much more than environmental cleanup. There are a lot of reasons participants here want to get this work funded, but it's the people back home that motivate Oak Ridge manager Jay Mullis.
So we're a major employer in the area, and I think a lot of the general public over in Knoxville, Knox County, et cetera, unless they're work at the site or know somebody that works at the sites, doesn't appreciate the fact that that's what's going on in their backyard.
Families across the country rely on the paycheck from these projects. Congressman Chuck Fleischman knows that's the case for many of his constituents.
This is important work. This is expensive work. We've got to be very careful as we take a very skilled, well-trained workforce, protect that workforce as they endeavor to clean up these sites, and make sure that we put back those communities and those lands in the hands of those communities, like we've done over the years from DOE. Take cleaned up work, take it through DOE, and get it back on the taxpayer rolls in the respective communities like Oak Ridge.
When it comes to making sure his counterparts in government know just how important this work is, he says it's a fairly easy sell.
This is something that has tremendous bipartisan, bicameral, and administration support. What we are doing, we are cleaning up legacy sites, sites that are dirty in communities all over the United States.
The work is complicated, but the explanation he uses is simple and based on previous support, effective.
We receive tremendous support from our authorizer friends, from the appropriations process, from our local, state, and federal leaders, because what we're doing is actually cleaning up the environment and making it better for all Americans.
How do you plan to ensure that the mission and the work is continually and successfully funded and executed in Oak Ridge?
It's another great question. Appropriations is an annual process. We're going through that right now. I can speak from current experience. I wrote a very good bill, an energy and water bill for the United States House, which strongly funds all of our key missions that the Department of Energy performs, whether that's on the civil side or the weapons side. Nuclear cleanup, our national labs, the Office of Science, and of course the NNSA.
As that yearly cycle continues, so too does an even greater one.
So Oak Ridge, I think we brought 10 or 11 folks up here with us, several of them early career, to see kind of, how the sausage making goes on and the interactions.
All in an effort to make sure collaboration makes way for continuation and ultimately completion. And it's not just federal support either. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee recently signed Executive Order 101 that created the Tennessee Nuclear Energy Advisory Council. He also helped ensure a $50 million nuclear fund in the state's 2023-2024 budget. That'll allow for grants to support nuclear power-related companies relocating or growing in the state. DOE's Oak Ridge Reservation supports more than 40,000 full-time employees. That is according to a recent jobs report. As we finish up our interviews here at the 2023 National Cleanup Workshop, we asked Mullis for some parting words. What message would he like to send back from this conference to all those people? He has not only a few words for those in the industry, but the rest of the country as well. Take a listen.
There's a good synergy that goes on, and because it's one of the few conferences we have that's just focused on cleanup, it's a very good place to get those synergies going on and to show what we're doing and the return on investment to the American people.
You know, Mullis has committed his entire career to public service. We wanted to know, what are the top 3 reasons you enjoy your work? His first answer, and a quick one at that, was the people. He said if you don't enjoy the people, he doesn't know how you can enjoy the work. He loves the people. Next, he believes in the legacy, cleaning up the legacy and setting our own, making way for new work, missions, and achievements. Finally, giving land back to the community, he says, is one of his favorite aspects of this work. Well, the workshop is wrapping up, and maybe this inspired you. If you're interested in our field of work, we would love to see you here next year. The USA Jobs website is where you'll find openings in the federal government. You can scan the QR code on your screen right now. Just aim your camera at it. It'll take you to the website, or go ahead and visit usajobs.gov. Thank you so much for joining us from the National Cleanup Workshop in Washington, D.C. It is a privilege to bring you EM news from all across the country. Next month, we will be back home in Oak Ridge. We'll see you then.